So welcome everyone. We will be starting our webinar in a minute time. So stay tuned. Welcome to our webinar. Okay, so it's time and I think we can start. So good evening, everyone. A very good evening from Tokyo, Japan. And welcome to this webinar jointly organized by the United Nations University, Institute for the Advanced Study of Sustainability, UNU-IAS, and also with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, on this webinar, Building Back Better with GIAHS from COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Evonne, and I'm a researcher with the UNU-IAS, and I'm very happy and honored today to be the facilitator of today's webinar. But first, before we begin, on behalf of my colleagues at UNU and FAO, and as well as my fellow speakers here today, we would like to send our well wishes to all those who are being affected or who loved ones are being affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. We hope that you are doing well now and that you have found strength to overcome the challenges faced during this difficult time. And this is precisely why we're having this webinar today, as we would like to hear from our GIAHS friends from all over the world, what is happening to their communities and how they are coping with COVID impacts. And also at the same time to show support and determination together that we will build back better with GIAHS and building back a more harmonious relationship with nature and also a more prosperous GIAHS for all. So we are very excited as this is the first time both UNU-IAS and the FAO was able to gather speakers from GIAHS sites from all over the world to do this seminar together tonight. So without further ado, I would like to invite the director of the UNU-IAS Operating Unit, Ishikawa Kanazawa, our Dr. Tsunao Watanabe, to open our webinar with a few words. Dr. Watanabe, please.
Thank you, Evonne. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tsunao Watanabe. Thank you for joining us today at this webinar. It is an honor for the United Nations University Institute for the Advanced Study of Sustainability, UNU-IAS, based in Japan, to co-organize with the GIAHS Secretariat of FAO to bring to you this very timely webinar on GIAHS and COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic is an unprecedented crisis on humanity, affecting everybody in all over the world. It has posed many challenges on our daily lives and reminded us about our dependence of nature. In particular, we need to relook and reinvent the ways we use natural resources, including the way we produce our food. However, the new normal under the COVID-19 can also bring opportunities. For example, the Noto GIAHS of Ishikawa Prefecture, Japan, where my office, UNU-IAS Operating Unit Ishikawa Kanazawa, OUIK, is also based, is becoming an attractive home for city residents, as rural farming communities are now perceived to be more resilient in social ties and self-sufficiency. At such difficult times, the UNU-IAS and FAO are concerned about how the GIAHS communities around the world are coping with the challenges of COVID-19. My office, UNU-IAS OUIK, is also the Japan Secretariat for the East Asia Research Association for Agricultural Heritage Systems, ERAS, and Academic and Practitioners Association, jointly organized by Japan, China, and Korea GIAHS research institutions. However, our annual ERAS conference, scheduled in China this year, is postponed to next year. So we hope that this webinar will provide a platform for the GIAHS community worldwide to share our concerns, give mutual support, and also explore opportunities together for recovery and building back better from COVID-19. We truly thank our excellent speakers from Tunisia, Italy, Chile, and Japan GIAHS for taking their precious time to share their views with us today. And also to FAO, in particular GIAHS Global Coordinator, Mr. Yoshihide Endo and his team for their full support to make this webinar possible. I wish you all a fruitful session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Watanabe. Thank you for the kind words. And this opens our webinar today. So before we proceed to our first speaker today, I would like to ask the audience to write your questions in the Q&A box that you will see at the bottom of the Zoom interface. So please, at any time, send us your questions, and we'll try to address this at the panel discussions for Q&A time. But in the meantime, if you have any comments or you would like to share your experience with us and with the rest of the audience, always feel free to write anything, your comments in the chat room, and use that as the place to interact with one another. So first, I would like to now hand over to the most important person of the GIAHS program, that is Mr. Yoshihide Endo, our GIAHS Global Coordinator, the GIAHS Secretariat based in FAO, Rome. And so over to you, Mr. Endo, for your opening remarks and introduction on GIAHS.
Okay. Thank you very much, Evonne-san. And I'm very important, most important person. The most important person are GIAHS people and supporting people there. And thank you very much, UNU-IAS, for initiating this workshop. And also I appreciate the Ishikawa unit people who also supported. And I also extend my thanks to the GIAHS Secretariat who also contributed to. And also my thanks is extended to the GIAHS presenters, from each GIAHS site. So, and welcome the listeners. I'm going to explain just for 10 minutes the GIAHS program. And at the very end of my presentation, I try to make some scoping, attempt to make a scoping of this issue. So just let me open and share the, just a moment, just a couple of minutes to share the screen. And just share the screen. I hope we can share the screen now, my PowerPoint. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay.
You
so
have to keep in touch.
I have to be very quick. And so let me first explain the FAO GIAHS program, because some of you has never heard or talked about GIAHS. So FAO GIAHS program is to try to identify and designate the remarkable agriculture system with specific features. Based on the following five criteria, you can see the five criteria under the second paragraph: food and livelihood security, agrobiodiversity, local and traditional knowledge system, cultures, value system, and social organizations, landscape, and seascape features. All these 5 criteria must be fulfilled in order to be a GIAHS site, and FAO expert group designate GIAHS site based on the country proposal. And the purpose of the GIAHS program is not to designate the site, but more profound. The purpose of the GIAHS program is to achieve the following 3 objectives: conservation of the site, adaptation of the site to contemporary conditions. Ever-changing economic and social conditions must be considered, and the GIAHS site must be adapted, and sustainable development of the site. So these three objectives must be simultaneously achieved under the name of the dynamic conservation. So this dynamic conservation is the primary goal of GIAHS program. The dynamic conservation contains 3 different components, as is written here: conservation of the site, adaptation, and even development of the site. So GIAHS is not trying to maintain the old practices as it has been. GIAHS is also trying to aim at development of the site. So what is a dynamic conservation? This is a slide to explain dynamic conservation. Dynamic conservation starts from the making action plan. Action plan is a tool of the dynamic conservation. And dynamic conservation is the purpose. When in making action plan, the planner must include all the stakeholders: farmers, academia, local government, local business people, and it should include all the possible measures, all the possible activities which is ongoing, and some of them are new projects. And after the GIAHS is designated, action plan must be implemented. After the designation of GIAHS, action plan must be implemented. And in order to achieve 2 contradictory purposes, one is conservation of the GIAHS site, but the other objective is dynamic adaptation of the GIAHS site and development of the GIAHS site. So these must be achieved in a harmonious way and coordinated in a well-balanced way. And the action plan is not only one-time activity. It should be always monitored and evaluated. And if there is something wrong, it must be corrected. And the action plan must be in a second phase. And this kind of cyclic continuation must be maintained. And FAO in the near future will support technically and give some advices of this implementation of the action plan. This is all the dynamism of the dynamic conservation. Then possible measure for dynamic conservation also contains all the various type of measures, including economic measures or some capacity development activities, or marketing of products, or the development of agrotourism, or conservation of ecosystem, eco-services, or better management of agricultural resources, or empowerment of rural youth and farmers. It includes all possible measures, and it must be designed depending on the situation of the GIAHS site. And this is the current GIAHS site all over the world. Still, we don't have much of them. 62 sites in 22 countries. We don't have many of the GIAHS sites. So I will very quickly overview the GIAHS site, representative GIAHS site in the world. This is a floating garden in Bangladesh. Farmers create a floating agriculture bed floating on the flooded water. Flooded water covers all the farmland in the rainy season, and farmers loses their farmland during the rainy season. So farmers created this natural grass farming bed, and they grow fresh products based on this, on the surface of this floating bed. And this is agroforestry on the slope of the Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. This forest looks like a primitive, completely natural forest, but it is not. This is well designed and planned cropping system of the farmers. All these trees or shrubs or banana trees, coffee trees, and the crops are well designed by farmers during their long history. And this is a Maasai pastoral system in Kenya and Tanzania. The people, Maasai people, live just only on the grasses, and their entire food security rely on the grassland. They grow many types of cattle and sheep and goats, and they live on the products from them. This is honey rice terrace in China. This is not only the beautiful landscape, but also well-designed agricultural system. They maintain the forest at the top of the mountain in order to use them as a water supply sources. Chinampa in Mexico, which dates back to the Aztecan days. This is artificially created farmland in the lake region. This is a case of Japanese South Island, where all the ecosystems, eco-service, logistic arrangement of the provide eco services are revived, restored by farmers, and rice cropping system is now harmoniously conducted with the lives of the birds. And this is an agrobiology case in Chiloé Island, which will be explained by the Chilean delegate today. And this is the Andean agriculture, where we can see wide varieties of unique agrobiodiversity and magnificent landscape of the agro-engineering. And this is the case of millennial olive oil trees. Many old olive tree genetic resources are still maintained and produce olive. So possible impacts of the COVID-19 on agriculture and rural community can be classified in various ways, but it is one type of classification and sorting out of the issues. So there are many cases of many roots of the causes of which make an influence of the rural economy and agriculture. For example, decreased demand for specific agriculture products due to closure of the restaurant, hotels, suspension of events, diminished economic activities, which create income loss and increase in unemployment, and disruption of international trade. All these factors will result in a decreased demand, and the price will become lower as a result of this. But sometimes the situation is a little bit complicated. The price sometimes of some type of products will goes up due to the interruption of the food supply chain. And disruption of the supply chain at agriculture productions stage occurs due to lack of, for example, labor force, or disruption of other supply chain occurs at processing, transportation, and retail sector due to the maintenance control of the health situations, and decreased non-farm income for farmers. This is also impact on the agriculture production or entire rural economy. So scoping issue, this workshop is not trying to immediately appeal that the GIAHS has some special tools or effective measures to overcome the difficulty of the COVID-19. This is not our intention. Rather than that, we are trying to see what is happening in the GIAHS side as impacts of the COVID-19. Then we like to seek the potential resilience coming from the unique feature of the GIAHS side, as it expressed by the GIAHS 5 criteria, as a total composite factors of all these GIAHS side criteria, unique features. So ultimately, I would like to try to seek, and in the future, we would like to look for, is there any potential resilience coming from the unique feature of the GIAHS site? Now, GIAHS site has been proved as an existence of the entity which have overcome the difficulty arising from the natural disasters. GIAHS farmers are developed unique systems or traditional knowledge to overcome the difficulty arising from natural disaster or extreme climate condition. But GIAHS has never experienced the social, economic, and health shocks like this. So I would like to see what is happening now and in the future, what GIAHS can do as a potential resilience to overcome these social and economic health shocks. The most of the impacts of the COVID-19 belongs to these social economic health shocks. So we'd like to investigate and see the potential resilience to outside shocks like this. This is all about my presentation, and over to you. Evonne-san.
Thank you, Mr. Endo. Thank you for the very concise but comprehensive introduction in GIAHS, and also setting the scene for us for our discussions today at the webinar. So, but before we go on to hear from our four fabulous speakers from GIAHS, we would like to know a little bit about you, the audience. Actually, we have about 300 people registered with us today, and quite a number of you are here today, but we want to know who we are speaking to. So now we will be doing a poll. So please grab hold of your mouse or your keyboard and answer the question on your screen. You have about 20 seconds. The first question is, I would like to know which part of the world you are from now, listening to us on a Friday morning, afternoon, evening, so that we know where you're from. Wow, quite a distribution. Great. Okay, so maybe some more responses in 5 seconds coming. So we're quite a lot of people coming, viewing this from Europe and Central Asia, and also from the Asia Pacifics. Okay, thank you. And then, wow, okay, great. So, okay, yeah, we have someone from each region, which is good. The next question for you is, the second question is, so which organization or sector do you belong to? If you think that you are a student, you can put research or academia. If you think that, oh, you're not really related to any of this, you can put yourself as a citizen or others. So let us know where you are from. Okay. We're getting quite good responses. Oh, many fellow UN agencies and international organizations, friends, which is good. And also from the research field and governments. And also we have some people who are farmers themselves or related to the agriculture sector joining us. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And next, the last question is, are you residing or related to a GIAHS site? Are you living in a GIAHS site? Let's see how many of you. Wow. Great. Well, I'm actually quite happy. Okay, wow. So we're actually having more people who are not from the GIAHS side joining us today, which is exactly what we want to achieve in this webinar. And thank you for joining us again, for spending your time. So without further ado, I'll move on to our first speaker from a GIAHS Asia Pacific's GIAHS region. We have with us today Mr. Tomonori Tasaki from Miyazaki Prefecture, Japan, and he will tell us more what's happening to the Takachihogo-Shibayama GIAHS in Japan. So over to you, Tomonori.
Okay, can you hear me?
Very well.
Okay, let me share the screen. Do you see my screen? No? Okay. Good morning and good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. It's 9 p.m. in Japan, so good evening, everyone. I am Tomonori Tasaki from Takachiho town, Miyazaki Prefecture, Japan. I would like to speak about our site facing with COVID-19. And thank you very much for joining us today. Firstly, let me introduce our site briefly. As you see this picture, this is the landscape of our town, of our site. Our site is surrounded by mountains, and there are houses down the mountain, and there are rice paddies, rice fields down the houses, and there's a river running in the middle of the picture. And as you can see, we don't have a flat land, and so people in our site have been using those limited land effectively by changing agriculture product depending on the season in a year. So this means one farmer grow multiple agriculture product in a year. So I would like to show you clear examples. In spring, we plant rice, and in summer, we harvest varieties of vegetables such as tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, green peas, green peppers, etc. And in autumn, we harvest rice. And in winter, we harvest mushrooms and flowers and some fruit. And throughout the year, we feed cows for beef. And we have a ritual, which is a traditional dance performance called kagura. And then we have this ritual to pray for a good harvest for this entire system. So as I mentioned, one farmer grows multiple agriculture products in a year depending on the season. So this is because we cannot have an extended farmland. So we have to use those land effectively. So this is the mountainous agriculture and forestry system in our side. And if you are interested in our side, there's a GIAHS documentary film which is available on YouTube. So you can Google "The Seeds We Sow." This is a title. You can see the documentary film with English subtitle. If you see this, you can see our landscape in our side, and you can see agriculture system more, and you can feel the spirit of the GIAHS and the spirit of the people living in our side. I hope you watch this after this webinar. So let me speak about the impact of COVID-19. The first is about agriculture product. Sales amount of some agriculture product has declined actually. One of the example is ranunculus. This is one kind of flower. As you see the picture, there are many colors in this flower. Sales amount in our side has declined by 20 to 30%. A ceremony got canceled in spring. In Japan, ceremonies such as entrance ceremony or graduation ceremony takes place in March or April. And all of these ceremonies got canceled. And these flowers are used for those ceremonies. So as a result, the sales amount declined by 20 to 30% in spring. But Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries of Japan, local government, and related organization in our site has carried out flower promotions so that more people purchase flowers. And without these promotions, sales amount would have been declined more. I'm sure it declined more, like by 40 or 50%. I don't know the clear number. So thanks to those promotions, the national government carried out a nationwide promotion, and local government carried out a local promotion. And we buy the flowers with the farmers in our side. And thanks to those promotions, maybe the decline became much less. And on the other hand, sales amount of some agriculture products have not changed or even increased. Maybe as Mr. Endo mentioned, agriculture product, the sales amount or price are affected by other factors, not only COVID-19, like weather or typhoons or market situation. So for some product, it does not have effect by COVID-19. And in general, as a whole, at this moment, we have not faced critical situation against agriculture system or agriculture product as a whole due to COVID-19. But we have to be very careful because I see some restaurant owner or hotel owner decided to close their business because they couldn't have any tourists coming in. But as a whole, in terms of agriculture system, so far we have not faced critical situation. Maybe this is because most products are consumed domestically and mostly near our site. And also, as I mentioned, one farmer grows multiple products. So growing multiple agriculture products can be a risk management as a result. So next is about agritourism. As you see the picture, we offer local experience or staying with farmers or cooking experience. And we offer a countryside stay. And those agritourism has stopped completely in spring. So our site organizes an official association to promote agritourism and provide capacity building in our site. And this organization offers countryside stays to tourists or students and let them experience GIAHS lifestyle, such as stay with farmers, cooking experience, and agriculture activity experience, and etc. And those all bookings have been canceled after February. We were expecting at least 550 stays in 2020, but all of them got canceled due to the COVID-19. And we cannot carry out any promotion event for countryside stay after February. So we cannot see the scene like in the picture. We have not welcomed any guests from February. And we have some tentative bookings in 2021, but we are not sure what will happen to them. The next one is about the ritual. This is the traditional dance performance, which is called kagura. As you see in the picture down, we have annual event kagura, and we invite the people from inside of our site, and also tourists visit kagura, and we get together and have dinner and have sake, and we watch dance together. But this kagura, a ritual to pray for good harvest, is expected to be called off mostly in this year. And or even if we have kagura, we do not invite any guests from outside of our site. So the event will be closed one. And in our site, approximately 90 kagura groups exist. And kagura is an essential annual event for us to pray to the gods. So we are actually very sad because we cannot have kagura. And you can see the picture on the bottom on the right. There's a one god performing kagura, and actually this is me performing kagura last winter. And I am also one of the person who are very sad because I cannot do this maybe this year. Okay, so lastly, let me speak about the tourism. This is the Takachiho Gorge, which is the most famous sightseeing spot in our site. And there's a gorge, and you can row a boat along the river, and more than 1 million people visit this gorge. And this picture was taken May last year, and we have not seen this crowd of people this year at all due to COVID-19. So facing this pandemic, I believe many of you came to think about the way of tourism, and we as a GIAHS site also have to think about the way of tourism to make our site sustainable with tourism. So before COVID-19, in our site, we tend to focus on the number of tourists coming to our site. So we tend to be happy or satisfied if the number of people increase. But however, only the big number of tourists cannot always make our site sustainable, or sometimes it causes a trouble such as over-tourism. So I believe we have to think about the way, firstly, why we need tourism as a GIAHS site, and how we can bring the benefit to our site with tourism facing the COVID-19. And considering this background and facing COVID-19 pandemic, we have launched an official project called GIAHS CAST program this year. So this project is designed to create and develop a small group GIAHS tour in English so that tourists can touch and experience the local lifestyle. So in this tour, we take tourists to irrigation, rice paddies, and explain the history and touch the GIAHS lifestyle of local people. And then we do not take them to the gorge. Also, this project is designed to foster a professional GIAHS cast, which means local guide. We have been working with local people so that they can be skilled and professional GIAHS cast who are the must in this tour. And by accomplishing this project, I believe we can bring benefit to our site without depending on the number of the tourists. I believe we can bring happy to tourists and happy to GIAHS cast and happy to our site. So this is our new challenge to make our site sustainable with tourism. So if any of you have a chance to visit our site, maybe next year, I think we will have a chance to experience this GIAHS cast tour. So all of you are welcome to visit our town. And that's all for my presentation. And thank you very much again for listening to my presentation. And I hope we could exchange our opinion in discussion section. I can answer to your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tomonori. Thank you so much for sharing with us what's happening in the Miyazaki GIAHS. It's unfortunate that a lot of festivals and ceremonies are being canceled, but I hope we can soon, the communities can come together and people from outside can also soon come to your community again. For once, I really want to go there.
Yeah,
soon.
please. We are
Okay.
waiting.
So thank you. Next, we would invite Dr. Hatem Zitouni. He's an assistant professor at the University of Gafsa, as well as the president of the Association for the Safeguard of Gafsa Medina. And he will be talking to us on what's happening at the Gafsa Oasis GIAHS in Tunisia. So over to you, Dr. Zitouni.
Well, hello everybody.
Great.
Hope you're doing well. Okay, my presentation will be about, Gafsa historical oasis, GIAHS site and how, the community there responded to this pandemic, to this COVID-19 pandemic. I will focus on two points. Mainly, I will not speak about, the impact, but I will immediately go to the responses. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. Well, a brief introduction of the Gafsa historical oasis, GIAHS site. It's an oasis in the southwest of Tunisia. You're going too fast. Previous slide, please. The previous slide, please. Okay. Well, it's a mountain peri-urban oasis stretching over 759, hectares. What characterizes, the oasis of Gafsa is it's a three-layer culture. You have the first layer, they have the vegetable and the forage crops, then olive oil and fruit trees, then you have the palm trees. Something like 1,500 permanent farmers live there, and something like 2,500 seasonal and labor. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Well, this area contains 8 olive oil presses, 1 automatic milk collection unit, and 1 dates conditioning and packaging unit, and 1 dates pasta manufacturer, 1 compost station, and a local producer consumer daily market, and then 2 touristic resorts. Next slide, please. Okay. I want to talk about, the different, these 2 responses to COVID-19 pandemic. And the first one, next slide, please. And the first one is this, return to nature euphoria. You all remember how during this pandemic, most of the people are just to have this, return back to nature. Well, this is one of the things that was exploited by the people there. Okay? And here, the urban population of Gafsa discovered, Gafsa historical oasis, organic farming, and how this farming is a cost-effective food products, free of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. These biological, pesticides produced, from natural, sources and used in the production of their food. Now, this organic agriculture gives back to the environment what it was taken from it, and these organic, crops are a better source of, a better source of nutrients than conventional farming. So the impact immediately is that you have this urban population selling directly from the farmers themselves. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Here you have, some photos that were taken during this pandemic, and how, you have this question of sharing with the local population, even sharing some seeds the seeds, the local seeds, or the local indigenous seeds and the products. Right. Next slide, please. Now, the term is, the second response is this Oasis resilience capacities. The first thing that we noticed during this pandemic is there is much collaboration with the Oasis natural systems and farmers cooperation between themselves. They understand that this is a time of crisis, so they need to come into special relationships. Of course, these relationships exist before, but during this pandemic, these relationships were strengthened and have much sharing. Even in terms of the tasks, you have these farmers coming together. These are things they usually do, but we noticed, a lot of, use of these, collaboration and cooperation techniques. Now, the thing that we should understand is that the Gafsa, or historic oasis, is a closed system with regard to nutrients, elements, and organic matter. And here, the farmers, they kept this, closed system. They kept it closed, they kept it locked between themselves, and this was their response. And this is how they are enhancing, the biological cycles of, the oasis farming system, which involves, the flora and all, the flora and the fauna, the microorganisms, plants and animals. Okay? Also, this closed system, it provides employment opportunities to the local people, mainly the manual labor. So these people, once keeping together, they know because the labor force has fled to other towns or surrounding towns, etc. But they kept the work or the workload for their population. Now, one more other thing is that the three-layer culture imposes on the farmers a year-long non-stop farming. According to a statistics, carried out by Sam Gafsa, we noticed that farmers have only 16 days most of the time. Either it's in March or in April where they can have, some vacation. And this is, this system kept them producing all the time. Second slide, please. The other thing is this question of the ecological sphere that the Oasis of Gafsa wants to keep. Okay, and by being a whole sphere that aims at sustainable development through these integrated forces, of the farmers themselves, the institutions, and all the actors in this area. So by keeping this regional agricultural ecological sphere, which is different, if you notice, if you come here to Gafsa, you will find that it's different from other agricultural practices found in other places around, the city of Gafsa. The following point is the fact that farmers, because they have a long experience in supplying the market, understand this urban-rural interdependency in times of crisis, and are able to manage the resources of flow and collective resistance. So because they know this is a time of crisis, so production has, in a sense, increased. And in fact, if you look at the statistics all over Tunisia, the agricultural sector is the only sector who has benefited from this COVID-19 pandemic with 14.8% of production. The other point is this belief that vegetable consumption strengthens immunity. This led to an increase in this perishable, products, mainly vegetables and fruits. Following slide, please. Well, the other thing is that during the lockdown that happened during the month of, March and April, the labor force, coming from neighboring towns and villages, in a sense, they have fled the oasis. So during this farmers, family farming became more recurrent to avoid stress on food production and supply. Some community members, can no longer go to cities, to find jobs, as the farming activities provided them with alternative incomes during this, and all goes back to this, closed, sphere. The local actors, in reality, are leading the way to build the post-COVID-19 more resilient, food systems. Following slide, please. These are some photos of what was produced during the lockdown and even during this period. Okay, you have all the figs, all the olive oils, all the dates. Now is the season of the dates and the pomegranates. These are recent photos taken from the local market or from the farmers themselves. Following spot, please. Following slide. Okay, in the end, I would really like to thank all these farmers. These are we call, the Oasis leaders. These are the people who are producing the change in the Oasis. Okay, I would like to thank them all because they are the real actors in this, small, GIAHS site. Following slide. Okay, this is a view of the landscape of the area, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Zitouni, for sharing with us what's happening now in the Gafsa Oasis. And it's very heartening to know that actually communities have taken it positively, and there are some good positive developments in your GIAHS. And thank you so much. So now moving on to Italy, and we have with us today Ms. Chiara Mattiello, and she's the Marketing Communication Manager from the Soave Consorzio, and she'll be telling us what's happening to the Soave traditional vineyards in Italy. And over to you, Chiara.
Thank you very much, everyone. Hope you hear me. I share the screen for the presentation. And okay, so Soave has been recognized as a GIAHS site in 2018, so we are quite young GIAHS site. We are a beautiful landscape. So as you see, everything is covered by vineyard, and where we can plant the vineyard, we have olive trees and chestnuts. The fact we are we produce grapes for the production of wine, only for the production of wine. So grapes are not sold in the market, and it's only an inner market for selling the grapes. So we produce wines, and the wines are sold in 68 countries all over the world. In this case, wine is not considered as a necessary commodity, is considered a luxury commodity. So this changed a lot, this perspective we have for the sales in global markets. During crisis, during this pandemic, people are thinking about what is necessary and what is not. And in some cases, wine has not been considered as necessary because in some countries, it's not considered a culture, meaning a culture way for spread the history and the traditions, because some countries are, they don't think that wine is a cultural thing. So we suffered during the first wave of COVID, so the first wave of the pandemic, of a huge decrease of selling. I speak for us, the Soave region, but I can speak for my colleagues from all over the world that had the sales lowered by 80 to 90%. So in some cases, there were no selling of wine. And we have to think that beyond every single bottle of wine, there's a farm and there's a family that lives on it. So in some areas of Italy and Europe as well, this affected a lot the life of the family, as well as it affected the operation in the vineyards, because during these last 10 years, the labor forces are concentrated with people that are coming from the eastern part of Europe. So that means Romania, Moldavia, or Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, that were united in cooperatives of workers that are very useful for us, that were very integrated in a community. But during the GIAHS pandemic, they transferred them, they moved themselves in their, their home countries to help their families. So we had a lack of labor for the operations. In this case, the Soave system reacted in a very important way. The economic sustainability is very important for us. We have 3,000 families, so we means 3,000 grape growers, farmer, and the families helped each other when the labor lacked. So it means that they loan the machineries, they loan their own labor. So when they had finished to prune, they go to prune to the vineyard of their neighbor. Or during the harvest in September, people helped each other. Even in this time, we are suffering for the second wave of COVID. So Europe is very hit in this moment, and everyone is closed. Now we are suffering for the second wave. So here in Veneto, we are a yellow region. So it means that we can move, we can work. But in our neighbor region, that is Lombardy, for example, they are a red region. So everything went back to February, to March. We are helping each other for the harvest, for the olive trees. So I was listening today, I was with my grape growers in the vineyard, and they say, oh, please, can you come to my olive trees and help me with the harvest? Yes, I give you the machinery, I give you the nets, I have my van, I come to you. So this social cooperation has become very important, and is this tissue we have, this social tissue we have, is helping us to go through this moment. We didn't stop any of our projects, so we mean we have lots of sustainability projects for environmental themes like soil erosions or biodiversity. We pursued this issue during the pandemic. So Integrità, Patrimonio, Ithaca Solution Systems are some projects very important for us, for helping people to improve their life in the vineyard. And these are the challenges we are facing in this moment. In 2020, the consumption of wine lowered by among the 14% generally in the world. And then the recovery will be in 2024. So it will be a long process for us. The problem for 2021, even if the pandemic will stop and everything will return to normality, for us, the problem will be the cash flow. Cash flow will be a very dramatic problem in 2021 because we are suppliers. So suppliers will be the last ring of the chain. So at first we will be the restaurant, will be the GDO, the great distribution, and then when they will restart, will take long time for us to be paid for what we produce in this year. So this is what the government will focus for next year. We still don't need help now, but we'll need help in 2021. What we are going to face a gap on the distributing channels. So means GDO and HoReCa, we will have this gap, huge gap between the distributions channels and restaurants. There's a rate of among the 40% of the restaurants that will close during 2021. We need to increase the e-commerce, so the online activities and the door-to-door. So we need to come back to our territories. For what we've done during the pandemic is to increase the online activities to promote wines and promote our production all over the world, and then the change of tone of voice. So we want to come closer to people and come close to our consumers. Wine is usually seen as something that is only for elite, and it's not, because its culture, its tradition, as I said, is something that belongs to Italian culture as olive oil. So it's a part of us. And it's very important to us to distribute this kind of concept in all over the world. For us, wine is not an alcoholic beverage, but it's something that is a part of us, a part of a culture. It's more than this. And so I think I am I'm very sure when I'm talking about the problems. I think the problems will appear to us on 2021, and we hope that we are going to face the problems with our governments.
Okay, grazie, Chiara. Thank you for sharing the problems, but I do also see the resilience in your community and in your consortium to try to get over this, and I believe things will turn better, and we'll discuss this further in the discussion. So now moving to our last speaker from Chile, we have Mr. Daniel Quiñilen Pereira, and he's from the Institute for Agricultural Development of the Ministry of Agriculture Chile. And he will be speaking in Spanish, and his slides will be in Spanish, but we have with us also Ms. Constanza, and she would kindly do the interpretation in English. So over to you, Daniel.
Daniel, su turno.
Correcto. Muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Daniel Quiñilen. Soy su director regional del Instituto de Desarrollo Agropecuario INDAP. Y hoy día voy a compartir respecto a CIPAM Chiloé y la oportunidad de generar acciones público-privadas para enfrentar COVID-19. Y me acompaña hoy día Andrea Curumilla, agricultora de Chiloé, dirigente por bastantes años en diferentes organizaciones, y hoy día también en lo que es la cooperativa CIPAM. Y para que conozcan a Andrea, que está a un distanciamiento social adecuado.
So to explain, This is Chiloé GIAHS, and about the opportunity to generate public and private actions to face COVID-19. The expositor here is Daniel. Sorry, I have problems with. There is Daniel Quiñilen, the regional subdirector of INDAP, that is the Agricultural Development National Institute, and he's with the company of Andrea Curumilla, that is an agriculture of Chiloé. Shows if she's going to answer some questions, if it's the possibility, and to tell the experience that she has. And this corresponds to the Ministry of Agriculture here in Chile.
Lo que voy a mostrar hoy día tiene que ver con 5 aspectos. Uno es la ubicación de CIPAM Chiloé. Lo segundo es la línea de tiempo que ha hecho el recorrido que ha tenido CIPAM. Los principales involucrados en esta iniciativa, desafíos y brechas, y CIPAM Chiloé con COVID-19.
The agenda for today has 5 main points that has to do with the geographical context of the GIAHS site, a timeline of different situations and main situations, the important institutions that are involved in this project, and the gaps and challenges throughout the time, considering COVID-19, and the Chiloé GIAHS and COVID-19 itself.
La ubicación de CIPAM Chiloé, hay un contexto mundial y nacional al respecto. Chile tiene la virtud de ser un país largo y estrecho, con barreras naturales, en América del Sur al final del mundo. Destaca a nivel nacional el 13% de ruralidad, pero según la estadística del año 2017, la ruralidad en la provincia de Chiloé alcanza el 39,24%, es decir, Chiloé tiene al menos 3 veces el porcentaje de ruralidad respecto al resto del país.
So Chile is a country of 6,000 kilometers of coastline, with a coastline facing the Pacific Ocean. It has a national surface of 75 million hectares. It includes a population of 79 million of people. We have to consider that 30% of this population is rural, and go specifically to Chiloé area. It has 839 hectares approximately, and the percentage of rurality in Chiloé province is about to 39%.
La historia de la iniciativa CIPAM en Chiloé abarca un periodo de muchos años. En ese periodo de años se destacan muchos hitos, de los cuales el año 2011, voy a mencionar algunos, la FAO selecciona oficialmente Chiloé como sitio CIPAM.
In 2000, this is the timeline, and it is a short description of the important situations at international, at a level, national level. And we have to tell you that in 2011, FAO officially select the archipelago of Chiloé as a CIPAM, or GIAHS in the English translation, sorry.
También en el año 2013 se aprueba la marca de certificación sello CIPAM Chiloé.
In 2013, the seal of GIAHS was proved, there was a certification of the Chiloé GIAHS in 2013.
El año 2014, INDAP, la institución a la cual yo represento, crea un equipo de trabajo CIPAM para Chiloé.
In 2014, INDAB, that is the Agricultural Development National Institution, create a teamwork of staff of GIAHS in Chiloé.
El año 2018 existe un taller en CIPAM en China donde el Ministerio de Agricultura envía 2 representantes de nuestro país, un representante de Antofagasta y un funcionario de INDAP Chiloé.
In 2018, the Agriculture Ministry here from Chile sent two representatives of Chile, one from Antofagasta, that is a north location, a big city in the north of Chile, and one from Chiloé.
Desde el año 2019 hasta la fecha, INDAP está desarrollando un programa público denominado y que va a apoyar CIPAM y ejecutado, como bien digo, por INDAP. Y esto a partir del año 2019 y en este presente año.
Last year, in 2019, the GIAHS program was developed by INDAP, that is the Agricultural Development National Institute here in Chile. So it started as a GIAHS site.
En la iniciativa CIPAM existen diversos involucrados y la lámina que estoy representando hoy día tiene que ver con toda la interconexión que existe, en primer lugar, con los agricultores de Chiloé como principales actores y el Ministerio de Agricultura, la Gobernación de Chiloé, centros de estudios como CET Chiloé, la Secretaría de Agricultura, empresas campesinas y empresas privadas. En la distribución geopolítica de nuestro país, en esta iniciativa, en diferentes niveles, existe una representación a nivel nacional, regional y finalmente local, donde hay una vida propia en Chiloé en materia CIPAM.
So, as Daniel explained, here you can see the main institutions that are part of the development of the GIAHS site. As the principal participants are the agricultures from Chiloé. And Daniel explained too that it is important to mention that this is a private and public institutions that collaborate with this project, like the Ministry of Agriculture, certain technological study centers from Chiloé, private institutions, and obviously the government institutions in Chile.
Voy a hablar sobre desafíos y brechas que actualmente estamos enfrentando. La certificación marca CIPAM Chiloé es una excelente herramienta. Los productores la valoran como reconocimiento local. Aún con esto, se debe potenciar el conocimiento sobre lo que significa el sello de origen y darle un enfoque territorial, involucrando a otros actores de la comunidad.
The certification of the GIAHS Chiloé is an excellent tool because producers value it as a local recognition. It is the knowledge about what the seal of origin means and should be enhanced or fostered and given a territorial approach involving other community actors.
Por otro lado, hay que potenciar el empoderamiento y la autonomía para justamente potenciar el sitio CIPAM en algunas de las comunidades de Chiloé, en particular en la zona sur del archipiélago.
On the other hand, it is important to empower and the autonomy should be strengthened to promote the GIAHS site in some of the Chiloé communities, particularly in the southern part of the archipelago. It's important to mention that Chiloé is an island, but it has little islands surrounded the territory.
Por otra parte, también está el mejoramiento del estado de la diversidad de las especies nativas, de los paisajes, sistemas productivos, considerando la conservación y el uso sostenible.
Additionally, it is important the improvement of the status of the diversity of native species, landscape and productive systems, considering conservation and sustainable use.
Por otra parte, también el aumento del valor de la producción de bienes y servicios con identidad cultural.
Additionally, the increase in the value of the production of goods and services with cultural identity.
También es necesario consolidar instancias de coordinación público-privada a nivel local, provincial y regional que incorporen criterios CIPAM en su gestión. Me refiero a planificación, políticas públicas y programas en general.
It is necessary to consolidate public-private coordination into the institution at the local, provincial, and regional levels, which incorporate GIAHS criteria in their management, such as planning, policies, programs, and among others.
Por otro lado, también hay que fomentar la construcción de una orgánica y financiamiento estable que permita el desarrollo de la potencialidad de una marca de esta naturaleza en las actividades por parte de la Gobernación Provincial de Chiloé, que permita actuar con fluidez y resolver las necesidades de un territorio reconocido como CIPAM.
It is important to promote the construction of a stable economic issues that allows the development of the potential of a brand of this nature. In the activities by the provincial government of Chiloé that allows it to act fluently and solve the needs of the territory recognized as GIAHS.
Por otro lado, hay que enfocar las acciones y recursos en el marco de Chiloé como sitio CIPAM, y esto que produzca un impacto territorial significativo, con potencial y también que permita planificar a largo plazo.
Actions and resources must be focused within the framework of Chiloé as a GIAHS site, which produce significant territorial impact with potential and which must be planned in a long term.
El sistema CIPAM es un modelo complejo de gestionar, puesto que se debe buscar un fortalecimiento a través de normativas, en el caso de nuestro país, proyectos, recursos, y esto en conjunto con comunidades locales, fortalecidas que profundicen sistemas agroecológicos de producción, al mismo tiempo que recrean y actualizan la identidad cultural del territorio.
The GIAHS project system is a complex model to manage, since its strength must be sought through regulations, projects, and resources in conjunction with strengthened local communities that depend on archaeological production systems, while recreating and updating the cultural identity of the territory.
Se requiere de una metodología diseñada para el empoderamiento local y comunitario, la generación y fortalecimiento de capacidades y sus recursos culturales, naturales, con la misión de quien entre a la isla pueda encontrar experiencia y aprendizajes.
It requires a methodology designed for local and community empowerment, the generation and fostering the foster of capacities and its cultural and natural resources, with the mission of whoever have access to the island, find experience and a learning process.
Ahora, respecto a CIPAM, Chiloé y COVID-19, hay un contexto y también hay oportunidades. En lo referido a contexto, nosotros estamos experimentando una cuarentena y cordones sanitarios que obligan a alimentarse o buscar fuentes de alimentos dentro de un radio de 50 kilómetros aproximadamente. Los agricultores también están más reticentes en general a tomar riesgos crediticios frente a la incertidumbre económica local y nacional respecto del año 2021. El rubro del turismo rural se ha visto más afectado frente a la baja considerable de visitantes en la zona. Por otro lado, la ganadería no ha sufrido mayor afectación por la pandemia, ya que el comercio local se ha visto favorecido con precios altos del ganado en pie y la venta de leche ha continuado estable. Existe también escasez de insumos, equipamientos y maquinaria agrícola. La artesanía también tiene una escasa venta.
So according to what Daniel said, this is the GIAHS context regarding to COVID-19. And it's important to mention that quarantine and sanitary cordons force fitting within 50 kilometers, farmers are more reluctant to take economic help like bank credits risk in the case of local and national economic uncertainty for 2021. The rural tourism item has been more affected by the considerable drop in visitors to the area. Livestock has not suffered a greater impact from the pandemic, since local trade has been favored with high prices of live cattle, and the sale of milk has continued stable. There is a shortage of inputs, equipment, and agriculture crafts because they are poorly sold.
Por otro lado, existen oportunidades dentro de todo este contexto de dificultad. En lo referido a hortalizas, destaca en algunas comunas que agricultores en general venden toda su producción, considerando que también hay una búsqueda en las personas de evitar los centros urbanos y los centros comerciales. Las ventas locales también se han privilegiado, dado el cierre sanitario de la Isla Grande. El rubro lechero como el ovino se han mantenido estables. Las comunidades organizadas también permiten, de alguna manera, sobrellevar esta crisis. Los alimentos en general cultivados en ambientes sanos y con bajos costos, desde el punto de vista de la agroecología también, logra atraer a un comprador que necesita alimentarse. En general, las oportunidades que nosotros tenemos como Chiloé tienen que ver con las prácticas culturales, ancestrales, donde los costos también tienen que ver con el propio uso que se le da a todos los recursos que existen en los predios. Por lo tanto, frente a este bloqueo que existe sanitario, llamémoslo así, ha logrado potenciar justamente, y es un tremendo potencial en los alimentos sanos que tenemos desarrollando dentro de la isla, y asimismo también los productos elaborados.
According to what Daniel said, the farmers have been suffering considerable drops in their sellings because they produce less than the previous data that of the last years. But the local sales have been privileged due to the fact that the sanitary closure of the island. This is a strange situation due to the fact that the milk or the farmers that work with the milk production have been stable because the same population of the island consume their own products. And the products in general that have been recollected during this whole year have been considered in a low cost and in a healthy way, that they are without any COVID risk.
Y finalmente, una frase. De esa semilla del campo nace el alimento para la ciudad.
From that seed of the field is born the food for the city.
Gracias.
Thank you very much.
Gracias, Daniel, and thank you for sharing with us what's happening at Chiloé agriculture. And I know we do have with us today Ms. Andrea too, and she's a farmer and also the president of the Farmers Cooperative. Would you like to say something to us?
Andrea, están preguntando si es que quisieras mencionar algo o si quisieras explicar alguna experiencia.
Bueno, muy buenos días a todos. Saludos desde la isla de Chiloé, al sur del mundo, y más que nada validar lo que ha sido el sello CIPAM y el otorgamiento por parte de FAO a este territorio que es tan particular.
She's expressing that she's very thankful for the help of the FAO system, and she recognized that the GIAHS seal was very important for them to consecrate their products and their site.
Y para finalizar, decir que para nosotros es muy importante este reconocimiento y este sello CIPAM porque nos permite de alguna forma resguardar todo el patrimonio cultural que tenemos en Chiloé, partiendo por las semillas que son tan importantes para nosotros y todas nuestras prácticas culturales indígenas también que a veces se ven un poco afectadas por esta pandemia o por otros agentes externos que nos pudieran afectar. Así que de alguna forma este sello nos permite tener un resguardo de eso que es tan importante para nosotros. Y muchas gracias.
She's explaining that GIAHS seal help them to maintain and to keep throughout the time their native and indigenous cultural identity and practices of farming. So this was very important to maintain their culture about the island in a very helpful and recognizable way.
Okay, thank you. Muchas gracias, Andrea. Thank you for coming all the way to Daniel's office and sharing with us your experience.
It's important to mention that they have social distance. They are very far apart.
Okay, great. Okay, so now actually I have to apologize for running a bit behind time. And so this webinar may be extended for another 10 minutes. So if you really have plans, you can leave. But I won't want to miss this discussion session with our speakers now. So summing up what we have all said in this session, I think I can briefly just share with you the slides here that I have. So we've heard that there are a lot of challenges that we face now in the COVID situation in the GIAHS sites. To briefly just sum up and really generalizing, actually, is that we see there is a drop in sales of some of the agricultural products, but at the same time, some also went up. But it's a significant drop in the tourism in the sites. And with that, of course, income options are also limited. And also we're seeing like a lack of labor. Some of them are foreign laborers, and so they move back to their hometowns. And also because of this lockdown, shutdown, or problem, it's hard to get some agricultural machinery or inputs. So even if you want to produce, you can't. And also there's a lot of cancellations or postponement of festivals and events, including ceremonies. And also reduction or unable to interact with the outside communities. But at the same time, there's also change we see in their communities now. The change upon them is that they have to relook at their marketing and sales approaches and strategies. But also this is also provide them an opportunity to move to more online-based events, which may be for the better. But more importantly, I think this whole COVID thing has changed the attitudes of the local people about their own communities in GIAHS, but also at the same time about people outside of rural communities like GIAHS, looking at towards a rural life and places like GIAHS. And also it has reorganized the communities, but most of the time has made them more intact together. So then in this session that we have here, the next 10 minutes, we would like to discuss with the panelists and speakers here, like how can then we really recover from the COVID-19, and then how it exactly we think that the COVID-19 situation has displayed the resilience of our communities, and then what are the opportunities for the GIAHS communities. I think some of you has already mentioned in your presentation, but if you have anything to add now, I am happy to let you take the floor. Any takers? So what are the opportunities that we think that the COVID has brought to us, not only the negative impacts?
Can I?
Sure, Tomonori.
One of the answer to my opinion is the key factor is community effort. In our agriculture system, our system is supported by the community. So we share the works and we work together pretty often. So when the sales declined, we, I think, helped each other to let more people to purchase the flowers or like other product. So without this community effort, I think we would have faced more critical situation. Resilience, when we talk about the resilience, I think the community will be very important factor in our side. Yes.
Yes, that's also the impression that I've got from all your other the speakers.
Yeah.
I think it looks like the community ties and the spirit of camaraderie within the communities have really helped us to pull through a lot of challenges this time. Chiara, do you have anything to add on your community?
Yes, probably it was the sense of community that was very strong in this moment. In our case, we have two kinds of businesses. We have social cooperatives. There are very big industries, and then we have very small wine producers. And in this moment, the big social cooperatives that have these distributing channels on the GDO has bought the wine from the small producers to help them to avoid the wineries before the harvest we had, and they bought the wine from them. So that was a very helpful. And so this is the most important things that happened. Actually, we are still on the second wave, so we are a little bit shocked now. And I think that something has changed, but we are still not so. I got the light. We are still don't know what will happen in the future. We hope that things will going well. So we hope that markets reopen again.
But I'm sure based on your experience dealing with the first wave, now you're a little bit more experienced, and hopefully the second will just go soon. But I do agree. I think it's not only the community ties within the GIAHS communities, but GIAHS usually you work with a consortium or you have a promotion association, which in the case of Chiloé, it's the whole government and private combination of organizations working together for GIAHS. So when something like a COVID shock happened, then you already have in place such organization ties or institutional structure for different actors to come together, which I think is also a strong part of the GIAHS sites because you have that institutional thing. But then, Dr.
Can I
Zitouni,
say
oh,
just a little thing that happened? We've made, as most of you come from Japan, we've made a promotional campaign in Japan during summertime with small and big producers. And what we see is not only what happened inside the GIAHS site, but what happened between communities. So for us and the Japanese people, that our restaurant and our ambassadors reacted very well when we proposed an activity, even in these moments. And it is a sense of community, not only from the inside, but between people that work together for lots of years. So probably that was very, we saw the data a couple of weeks ago of this promotion, and we have to officially thank everyone that helped us, because we help each other, even if we are 1,200 kilometers in distance.
Yeah, the social distancing is only physical, but emotionally we are always together. And community ties is not only within the community, but also building ties with other communities outside. It's really important. Very good point. Thank you, Chiara. And Dr. Zitouni, you have something to add, do you?
Yes, please. Thank you. Well, when it comes to the question of recovering, I would mention, three important points is, we should carry on, maintaining and preserving, this long proven, agricultural system. We should, keep, maintaining this sense of community. Remember, at the time when people are getting away from each other, these farmers are getting, so near to each other just to solve their own problems. The second thing is we should look for solutions that come from, what I call, inner site solutions. Right? We have solutions there within the site. So let's, in a way, strengthen these mechanisms. Right? The third thing is, how can I say, encouraging, this sense of community, making it function much better. That's the only way out of this. And we all know that, no solution will come from outside. The only solution is just within this community. And thank you.
I think the solutions, the basis would always come from inside, but then helping us to actually implement those solutions, sometimes we also need help from outside. So I think it's a bit of a both, but indeed in the Tunisia case, very impressed that, coming back to work to help the hometown, and many people decided to stay on. And I think that's a great opportunity for GIAHS or rural communities for COVID. And I think, I wonder if that is also the case in Chiloé. In Chile, have people return to Chiloé and decide that maybe life here is better than the cities. Daniel.
Daniel, preguntan que cómo lo hacemos en Chiloé con respecto a los habitantes que en realidad decidieron irse a vivir en la isla considerando COVID-19. Y que por qué es mejor vivir en la isla que en la ciudad.
Lo que pasa, lo que ocurre es que, bueno, la gente llegó a Chiloé antes que COVID, entonces tenemos claramente personas, habitantes que llevan por muchos años viviendo en la isla grande y en el archipiélago interior.
It is important to mention that before COVID, throughout the years, there's keep maintaining of the identity, cultural identity. So this means that native citizens are from far years ago, back in the days, working the land. And as we said previously, the GIAHS seal helped them to maintain throughout the time.
Por otro lado, la cultura propiamente tal de la gente. Hay una cultura agrícola inminente que está enraizada en la vida misma de las personas. Por lo tanto, al llegar justamente estas medidas y las medidas sanitarias, se provoca todo un shock. Hay un choque de mundos entre la forma de vivir de todos los habitantes de la isla respecto a medidas restrictivas. Normalmente este nivel de restricción es inédito, como en todo el mundo, pero en la isla propiamente tal, estas restricciones también han afectado, por un lado, la vida normal de los habitantes que libremente vivían moviéndose entre las islas del interior y la isla grande. Pero también hoy día se transforma en una oportunidad desde el punto de vista de proveer alimentación sana. De hecho, conocemos historias de mujeres particularmente agricultoras que viven en sectores alejados de los centros urbanos y que desde que partió COVID, todos los días las personas van y les compran sus hortalizas.
Okay. As Daniel mentioned, it is important to give the social background of the island and the archipelago. And these people, the population, their main activity is farming. So they work with the land because the geographical context allows to produce a lot of products, to work with, to produce the milk, and have a big range of products. However, it is important to mention that when COVID starts for us in our country, that it starts in March, there were a collapse between the two worlds, the COVID world that happens after, and the daily life in the island. Because the people do not have the hygienical issues and knowledge about how to avoid this new plague. There's a story of a woman that lives far away from the city of the island. There are two main cities, that is Castro and Ancud, and she lives far away from the city, and she travels all days without sanitary products or issues or barriers in order to sell their products to avoid poverty during this year. So as I said previously, the population here has a cultural identity that is directly related with the farming. So kids are farmers and know how to work with land and to sell their products. Parts of the school in Chiloé to work the land and teach you how to produce or to maintain your products during this year. So there's a whole background, social background of farming.
Okay, so it makes it is a very cohesive and strongly tight community to start with. So people are already aware of the agricultural importance of the land. Thank you, Daniel. And Dr. Zitouni wants to say something more. Over to you.
Okay, now I spoke about the question of how to recover, but I would like also to speak about the question of opportunities. Okay. I mean, one of the things I always say is that with COVID-19, I mean, we have some, positive impact, effects. One of them is that this solidarity between farmers has been developed during this year, especially during the lockdown. And one other thing is that the local consumption of the Oases, I mean, it has gone, I mean, very high. The second thing is that the urban population, I mean, comes to understand now that
Dr. Zitouni, you are breaking up, so maybe we can't hear you that well. Okay, so yeah, so anyway, he's offline, a little technical group here. Mr. Endo, so having heard all the speakers on and their what's happening to them and their views, and also in the Q&A, some people are asking like, then what really makes GIAHS resilient to COVID-19? So in your view, what do you think after listening to our speakers makes GIAHS slightly a little bit more resilient in times?
Thank you very much for all the participants for a useful, valuable presentation. And it is too early to make some general conclusion or general overview of how the resilience of the GIAHS can provide against the COVID-19 crisis. But as far as I hear from today's discussion, I can have some senses, insights. For example, that multiple production, multiple cropping system is useful to avoid the risk arising from the market. So even if some markets products has affected decreased price or decreased demand, if farmers can provide another product which has a higher price after COVID-19, they can mitigate the risk or they can overcome the risk. This kind of multi-cropping system embedded in the GIAHS side can be one of the useful tool. And also the reliance on the local or nearby market, rural market, rather than remote or long food value chain might be another solution. Or use of e-commerce or IT system for selling the products. Try to avoid the problematic food value chain, which sometimes disrupted, is useful. And also I took the point that several GIAHS sites rely on the mutual supporting system of farmers mutual supporting. The GIAHS site has, I think, many traditional type of agriculture's association, farmers, voluntary institutions, which promoted mutual supporting system for a long time. So this kind of farmers mutual support would be a good solution for the and these are also embedded in the GIAHS site. And these all points I have just said, multiple cropping system or farmers institution or reliance on local market is not limited to the GIAHS side. This can be applied to all the agriculture sectors. So GIAHS unique features, if we improve more analysis and if we collect more information from more GIAHS side, we can have some suggestion to not only to the GIAHS side, but the global farming community that how the COVID-19 should be overcome. Of course, outside assistance is definitely necessary. Policy intervention or some assistance from outside is definitely necessary. We cannot solve every issue within the farming community itself. But within this 90 minutes webinar, I could sense some elements and we can have more discussion and more elaboration of this analysis. I have a very useful and rich insight. I think I could receive all the presenters from you. And thank you very much for a good quality presentation. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Endo, and thank you all the speakers. I think Mr. Endo has did a very nice summary for me on the discussions that we had today with the speakers. I think hopefully this webinar is just to kickstart and the discussions on how COVID is affecting our GIAHS communities, and it will then also we'll have more of such conversations with other regions as well. In the Q&A, even non-GIAHS regions like have the response from Myanmar and asking that how can we become GIAHS, and also other responses from Kenya and Tunisia. And they're like, well, next time, I mean, please feature us more. And we're having a lot of interest in the Q&A session. Sorry, we cannot answer all the questions, but Thank you so much for participating, and thank you for the responses in the chat. So maybe just to close today, thank you so much for coming, spending your time listening to us. The content of this webinar, it's video recorded, and it will be available on our website, in the United Nations University website, and also in some time to come also on FAO website. So you can actually share this video with your colleagues and friends. And I hope that can also then inspire more people to think about how we can actually cope with COVID together. Maybe we should have this session again next year and see how everyone's doing. Definitely, I think it will be better.
Evonne, sorry to interrupt.
So
There are several questions I cannot reply. I have replied some of the questions, but those people who don't receive their response, please write to us, the GIAHS secretaries. On the webpage of the GIAHS site, you can find the GIAHS secretary email address, so please write to us. We try to respond. That's all I can say. Thank you very much.
For that, Stendo. So one big thank you to all the speakers today, and to all the audience. We run a bit out of time, but thank you so much again. And I hope you are doing well in this COVID situation, but I think we will get past this really soon. Thank you once again. Thank you. Good night.